All right, so today we are going to attempt to do a deep dive on the internet computer, or as most people who follow this space know it, ICP. And I have to say, I was looking over all of the articles and research that you sent over, and even I'm kind of interested to see what we find out about this one. We're not just going to, talk about the price. We're really going to look into the technology and the vision and, what is the potential here?
Well, one of the things about the internet computer that makes it so intriguing is that it's not just another blockchain, that's trying to do what Bitcoin does or, improve on Ethereum. It's really trying to do something much bigger. It's trying to, rebuild the internet as we know it.
Okay, so before we get into, rebuilding the internet as we know it, let's give everyone a little bit of a foundation here. So in the articles that you sent over, the current price of ICP is about $10.96. But then they dropped this little bombshell. The all-time high was over $750. So what happened?
Well, a lot of that drop, it mirrors what we see in the whole crypto market, which is a lot of volatility, This is still a really young space, very experimental. But, when it comes to ICP specifically, I think there's another layer to it. Because the goals of the project are so ambitious, that leads to, really high expectations. And then when things maybe don't move as quickly as some people think they will, you tend to get these really sharp corrections.
So is this just a case of too much hype too soon? Or is there really something fundamentally different about ICP that would justify that initial surge and then the big drop?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, right? That's what we're going to try to explore here. But one thing to think about, is that even despite that drop, it still has a market cap of $5.24 billion, which makes it the 30th largest cryptocurrency. So, that tells you that there's still a significant level of interest and belief in the project.
Okay, so there's definitely something here. This isn't just some kind of pump and dump. But before we get into, what the potential is here, can we just take a step back and just explain to people what the internet computer is? What's the elevator pitch for someone who isn't already familiar with the technology?
I think the best way to think about it is, imagine a world where the internet isn't controlled by these big companies. Where Google and Facebook don't have all of our data. Where your data isn't constantly being mined and monetized, where apps can run without, censorship or having to worry about things being shut down. That's really the vision behind the internet computer, to create this truly decentralized internet that's owned and governed by the users.
Okay, so this is kind of giving me some shades of, that early internet idealism that, free and open web. But how is this different from just using open source software?
It's not just about the software, it's about the underlying technology. The internet computer is built on a completely new type of blockchain, and it's designed to be incredibly fast and secure, very scalable, and it uses a very unique system of what are called cycles to power the computations.
Cycles. Okay. That sounds kind of interesting. Can you break that down a little bit more?
So think of cycles as the fuel for the internet computer. So developers, they use the ICP token to purchase these cycles, which are then used to run their applications. But here's the catch. Those cycles are burned in the process, so that means they're permanently removed from circulation.
Oh, okay. So the more activity there is on the network, the more ICP is getting burned and the scarcer the tokens become?
Exactly. It's a way to control inflation and potentially increase the value over time.
That's pretty clever. That's different from how most cryptocurrencies work, right? It incentivizes efficiency, and it creates a deflationary pressure. I'm still trying to get my head around this whole idea of a decentralized internet, though. What would that look like?
Well, think about it this way. Instead of having to use platforms like Facebook or Google, imagine you can access social networks or even, file storage, even financial applications that run directly on the internet computer. So there's no central authority controlling your data. There's no single point of failure.
Wow, so we're really talking about replacing the entire tech stack of the internet here. This is a pretty bold vision.
Yeah, and it's not just talk. There are a lot of projects that are already being built on the internet computer that, are demonstrating that this can work in the real world. So, you have things like decentralized exchanges, like Sonic or ICP Swap, that offer really fast and cheap transactions.
Decentralized exchanges. So you're saying I could potentially trade crypto without having to use Binance or Coinbase.
Exactly. These exchanges, they can leverage the speed and the security of the internet computer to facilitate peer-to-peer trading, often with, much lower fees than you'll find on those centralized exchanges.
So that's pretty revolutionary. But if we're talking about replacing the internet, Exchanges are really just the tip of the iceberg here. What else is being built?
Well, you've got things like Origin, which is an NFT marketplace that attracted investments from people like Paris Hilton. It leverages the internet computer to create a secure platform for digital asset ownership. And then you have something like OpenChat, which is a decentralized messaging app. It already has thousands of users.
So kind of like a WhatsApp or a Telegram, but without having to worry about all the data privacy stuff and censorship and all that.
Exactly. And we're even seeing projects that are exploring the metaverse on the internet computer, like Poked Studios, which is creating a virtual world where users can own digital assets.
Okay, you've definitely piqued my interest here.
Okay.
So we've got a lot more ground to cover, but I think we've got a pretty good foundation. We've talked about the ICP token, the whole concept of these cycles, and this vision of a decentralized internet.
And we're just getting started. This is really just scratching the surface of what the internet computer and the ICP token can do.
So for our listener, if you're already familiar with the basics of blockchain and you know what cryptocurrency is, this is where it gets really interesting. We're going to go deeper into the technical side of the internet computer. We're going to look at how this could disrupt different industries. And we'll definitely, analyze the performance of the ICP token in this crazy market.
One of the things that's really unique about the internet computer is that it allows for this continuous software development directly on the platform. So it's constantly evolving. Developers can build and deploy apps in a way that you just can't do on other blockchains.
So it's not just about hosting static applications. It's about creating a dynamic environment where the software can evolve in real time. Kind of like, the internet we're used to.
Exactly. And this continuous development, along with the user-provided bandwidth, creates this really unique advantage because it means the network can scale to accommodate, massive amounts of data and computation. And it could potentially even exceed what today's most powerful cloud providers can do.
Okay, that's a bold claim. That's kind of mind-boggling to even imagine. But let's try to break it down a little bit further. So we talked about cycles being the fuel for the internet computer. But how does the ICP token itself fit into all of this?
So the ICP token, it really plays a multifaceted role. We talked about how it's used to purchase those cycles, but it goes beyond just, fueling computation. It also acts as what's called a governance token. So this gives holders a voice in the future of the internet computer.
Governance token, huh? So if I own some ICP, I get to participate in the decision-making for the whole network.
That's right. So you can stake your ICP tokens, and by doing that, you can vote on different proposals. And these proposals affect, everything, like network upgrades, how resources are allocated. It's kind of like a digital democracy, making sure the internet computer stays decentralized and community-driven.
So it's not just about, potentially making money. It's about having a direct influence on the development of this technology.
Exactly. And there's even another layer to how the ICP token works. It can also be used to support the growth of the whole ecosystem through what are called decentralization sales. So basically, users can invest their ICP tokens into promising projects that are being built on the internet computer. And it's a way to help fund development and adoption.
It's almost like a built-in crowdfunding mechanism, right? Powered by the ICP token. So it seems like the token is really designed to be deeply integrated into every aspect of this.
Exactly. The ICP token really is the lifeblood of the entire ecosystem. It enables this level of functionality and user participation that you just don't see with the traditional internet.
Okay, this is pretty complex stuff. I'm starting to get a sense of the scale of the ambition here. But let's shift gears for a moment and talk about this concept of Web3. This idea of a decentralized internet that keeps getting thrown around. How does the internet computer fit into all of that?
Well, the internet computer is probably one of the most advanced platforms for actually building these Web3 applications. So, remember those decentralized exchanges and messaging apps we were talking about earlier? Those are perfect examples of what Web3 is all about, services that are owned and operated by their users, not by big tech companies.
So instead of using Facebook for social networking or Google for search, we could have these decentralized alternatives that are running on the internet computer. And that would give users more control over their data and their online experience.
Exactly. And this goes way beyond just social media and search. Imagine financial services being decentralized, supply chains that are transparent and tamper-proof, secure and verifiable voting systems. These are just a few examples of what Web3 can do. And the internet computer gives us the infrastructure to make it happen.
It's a pretty radical departure from the internet that we're used to. This whole idea of decentralization, it sounds good on the surface.
Yeah.
But it also raises some questions, like Wouldn't a decentralized internet be harder to regulate? What about like content moderation or preventing illegal activities?
Those are all good questions. And, decentralization doesn't mean that there's no rules. It means finding new ways to govern and regulate online spaces, using the power of blockchain to create systems that are transparent and accountable.
So it's not about getting rid of rules altogether. It's about shifting how things are controlled and creating these models of governance that are more democratic and user-centric.
Exactly. And the internet computer with its governance system, which is powered by the ICP token, that's a step in that direction. It gives users a say in shaping the rules and policies that govern this new internet.
This is fascinating stuff. But if the goal is to like revolutionize the internet, I'm guessing there are probably other projects out there that are trying to do similar things. How does the internet computer stack up against the competition?
There are definitely other projects out there that are working towards this decentralized web. And they all have their strengths and weaknesses. So you have things like IPFS, which is the Interplanetary File System. It's a protocol that aims to decentralize data storage. And then you have Filecoin, which is a cryptocurrency that incentivizes users to contribute storage space to that network.
Okay, so IPFS and Filecoin are more focused on the data storage side of things.
Right.
But the internet computer is taking this broader approach.
Right, exactly. And then you have something like Solid, which is a project that Tim Berners-Lee is heading up. He's the guy that invented the World Wide Web. And Solid is all about giving users control over their own data.
It seems like there's a lot of different approaches to decentralization.
Yeah, and one thing that really stands out to me about the internet computer is how ambitious it is. It's not focused on just one thing, like data storage or personal data management. They really want to create a platform for building the entire decentralized web.
Yeah, it's a pretty big goal.
And the team behind it is really impressive. The internet computer is being developed by the DFINITY Foundation, which is this nonprofit organization. And they've got this team of, world-renowned cryptographers, computer scientists, engineers.
So this isn't just some like fly-by-night project. There are some serious people working on this.
Yeah.
But let's be real, for most people, all this talk about blockchain and decentralized internet can be kind of intimidating. So how accessible is the internet computer for someone who's not, a tech expert?
Well, getting ICP tokens is actually pretty straightforward. They're listed on all the major exchanges, Binance, Coinbase, Huobi Global. You can buy them just like you'd buy Bitcoin or Ethereum.
Okay, so the barrier to entry isn't as high as you might think. But, investing in crypto is always risky, especially in this market. What are some of the factors that could affect the price of ICP moving forward?
Well, like any cryptocurrency, there are a lot of things that can impact the price. You've got overall market sentiment. What are people feeling about crypto in general? Regulatory developments, what are governments doing? And probably most importantly, the progress of the internet computer project itself.
Okay, so let's try to unpack those factors a little bit. Let's start with market sentiment.
Yeah.
How is the current crypto landscape affecting ICP's price?
It's kind of a mixed bag right now. On the one hand, we've seen, more and more institutions getting interested in crypto. Like you have these big companies like Tesla and MicroStrategy adding Bitcoin to their balance sheets. And that's kind of created this sense of legitimacy that this is here to stay. So that could potentially be good for all cryptocurrencies, including ICP.
So a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah, maybe. But then on the other hand, you also have governments. They're starting to take notice. And there's a lot more regulatory scrutiny now. All over the world, governments are trying to figure out how to classify crypto, how to regulate it.
Yeah, regulations, that's always the big question mark with crypto. So how could that specifically impact ICP?
Well, the internet computer, this whole idea of a decentralized internet, it could potentially clash with how things are regulated right now. Because, most of our regulations are designed for a centralized web. Governments are going to be concerned about things like data privacy, consumer protection. And, what if people are using this decentralized platform for illegal stuff?
Right. So even if the technology is sound, there could be these regulatory hurdles that slow things down.
It's definitely a risk. But the good news is that the DFINITY Foundation, they've been working with regulators and policymakers to address these concerns and to show them, why a decentralized internet is actually a good thing.
So they're trying to get ahead of it. That's good. But let's talk about the third thing you mentioned, the progress of the project itself. How are they doing in terms of, meeting their goals?
They've definitely made a lot of progress. The network is live. They've got a growing community of developers. We're seeing new projects being built all the time. But it's still early days.
Yeah, building a new internet isn't going to happen overnight.
Exactly.
So what are some of the things that investors should be looking out for?
Well, I'd say one of the most important things is the developer ecosystem. How quickly is it growing? Because the more developers that are building on the internet computer, the more valuable the platform becomes. Also, keep an eye out for, some big name applications launching, things that show people how this technology can be used in the real world.
So it's not just about the tech, it's about the community and the use cases.
Right. And then, of course, you always want to pay attention to what the DFINITY Foundation is saying. What's on their roadmap? Who are they partnering with? They've got big plans. So their ability to execute is going to be critical.
This has been a really interesting conversation. We've learned a lot about the internet computer, the technology, the vision, the potential.
Yeah, and this is really just the tip of the iceberg.
Exactly. There's a lot more to explore here. So for our listener, if you're interested in this, I encourage you to do your own research. Look into the projects that are being built and decide for yourself what you think about the future of this technology.
I think it's fair to say that the internet has transformed our lives. But it's also become very centralized. A few big companies have a lot of control, and the internet computer is offering an alternative, this vision of a more decentralized and democratic internet, where users have more power and there's more room for innovation. Whether or not it succeeds, well, that's still an open question, but it's going to be fascinating to watch.
Absolutely. So as always, stay curious, stay informed, and we'll see you next time.